Welcome back to the End Time Remnant YouTube channel. This is Dorothy. Today is May 2nd, 2025. It is probably 4:45, a little bit before 4:45. And I really had no intentions of making a video or posting today. I posted 2 videos yesterday, and today was just my plan to just chill and rest. But something happened earlier today, and I want to share it with you. Prayerfully, it will encourage you, because I have spent the past couple of hours encouraging myself in the Lord. I am a tough soldier, but may I just say, today was really tough for me. Today was just really, really tough for me. So, back on March 10th of 2025, it was the 22nd anniversary of my mom's passing. And while that particular date, on that date every year, I do feel sad. I think about my mom a lot. I think about the events that kind of led up to her passing that day. I think of that day that she actually passed away. Sadness, I'm used to it. But for some reason, this year, sadness was taken to like a whole nother level. Like throughout the entire day, I just felt so heavy. And so toward the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I just need me a coffee. I need me an iced coffee. That'll make me feel better. So I get in my car and I head off to go grab me an iced coffee. I am typically the one who you could consider the seatbelt police. Okay? I don't forget to put my seatbelt on, and if you get up in my car, I'm going to be the one to tell you, seatbelt please, right? I'm her. So it was very weird. But I hopped up in my car and started driving. I did not buckle my seatbelt. Okay? My head was all over the place. I just wasn't having a good day. And I forgot to put my seatbelt on. And the next thing I know, I'm being pulled over. And the next thing I know, I'm being given a ticket. And so as I sat there with the ticket, I'm like, Lord, I was like, I just cannot afford this ticket. I was like, I can't. I just kind of felt like, yeah, you can go and ask your sister for the money, and of course she'll give you the money and she'll pay the bill just like she's paying every other one of your bills, right? You can call your dad and ask him for the money. Of course he'll give you the money, right? But wasn't he just down here getting your car fixed? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to fix your car. Like, you should have had your seatbelt on. They should not have to pay this ticket. And that's just how I felt. I felt like this ticket was mine. Like I had completely earned it. And I had to figure out a way to take care of it. So I got my coffee, I went home, and I'm like, Lord, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have the money. And something said to me, just be honest. You know what I mean? Write a letter to the court, appeal this ticket, let them know that yes, you are guilty. You did not have your seatbelt on. Take responsibility, be honest, but also let them know that you're not working and you cannot afford to pay this bill. If I was working, this wouldn't even be an issue. They would have had their money by the time I got home. Matter of fact, I probably would have just punched in all my stuff on my phone and just paid it. You know what I mean? Like I'm never the type to like try to get out of paying something that you owe. You know what I mean? Never my wave. But I don't have it. And so that's what I did. I wrote a letter to the court to appeal the ticket. And I just was honest. I let them know that I'm not working and I can't afford to pay it. About maybe 2.5 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. And the letter was basically saying, we got your appeal, and if you decide not to pay the ticket, we'll see you in court on May 2nd so that you can come before the judge and talk to the judge about it in person. So I was like, okay, I'll go and I'll do that. Listen to me. I have been before a judge before. Okay, I was probably about 19 or 20 years old. Okay, and I'd gotten myself into a little bit of trouble. Okay, on a college campus, I had no control over my temper. About to get into a fight with this chick, I threatened to literally drag her. And the next thing I know, I found myself in front of a judge having to explain why I was threatening somebody. I didn't know threatening somebody was a crime, but it is. So I've been in front of a judge before. What I have never been in front of a judge to do is ask that he wipe out a ticket because I couldn't afford to pay it. Okay, I've never had to do that. So my name is called. Right? I go to the court this afternoon. I sit in the pew and I wait for my name to be called. My name is called. And I walk up to the front of the court. And he says to me, the first thing he says to me is, "You're guilty." He says, "The paperwork I'm reading right now is that you're guilty." He was like, "But it also says that you're appealing because you cannot afford to pay the ticket. Is that correct?" And I said, "That is correct." I said, "I am not working right now, and I cannot afford to pay the ticket." And he says to me, "You're probably thinking, why should you have to pay a ticket when if you got into an accident, it would only be you being hurt? You probably wonder why you have to pay when you haven't done anything to hurt anyone else. It would only be you being hurt." And then he goes into this whole thing about, ambulances and police officers and civil servants having to come out and basically, deal with car accidents because people don't take wearing their seatbelt seriously. And when he was done, I politely let him know that he was off base, right? I told him, I said, "No," I said, "typically I'm really good about putting on my seatbelt." I said, "This time around, I'm not really sure, what was going on there, but I'm typically really good about, my seatbelt." I didn't feel like talking to him about, oh, it was the date of my mom's death anniversary, and my head was just in the clouds and I was just having a bad day. I know nobody was there to hear or care about that, so I kept that to myself. But I know exactly what caused me to get in the car and just not even think to buckle up, right? I was just in a rush and my head was all over the place that day. Anyway, I let him know that no, that's not my train of thought, because I just kind of felt like he was assuming and trying to attach something to me that didn't fit. And it was quite the quantum leap, right? Quite the assumption about me. No, I don't think that way. And yes, I do think it's serious for us to buckle up and for us to follow the law. So he says to me, "So you're not working?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm not working right now." He says, "Well, how are you getting by?" I says, "Well," I said, I live with my sister right now." He says, "So you're not working." He was like, "You live with your sister. You're broke." Just like that. He said, "You're broke and you have the nerve to get in the car and drive without a seatbelt." He was like, "And now you're in front of me and you want me to waive your ticket." So I got quiet because I could feel my body getting hot. And the reason why my body was getting hot was because I was just starting to feel like really humiliated. I heard people behind me, the people in the courtroom behind me, they were kind of snickering and laughing, like when he called me broke. And when I looked forward, I saw the bailiff kind of like muffling a laugh herself. I guess they thought that was funny. Obviously, I didn't think it was funny. It was actually very humiliating. And I could feel my body getting hot. Now, I will have you know, I just came off of a dry fast. Listen, God knows what we need, okay? And just so I can be honest with you, fasting helps me to keep my flesh under wraps, right? Fasting helps me to hear more clearly from the Lord. Fasting helps me with self-discipline. May I just say, in that moment, I could feel my body getting hot. I could feel myself super embarrassed. I wanted to just literally disappear. But what I also thought to myself was, God has brought you a mighty long way, Dorothy. Because the pre-saved Dorothy would have likely been in jail right now, or fined for contempt of court. Who are you calling broke? You know what I mean? It's like, all rise, the honorable so-and-so judge is coming in the door. Right, but like the honorable who? Honorable who? Like, how are you honorable? Where's your compassion? Where's your empathy? Where is the verbiage that doesn't humiliate? You know what I mean? Like, there were so many other words that he could have used to express himself to me. He chose broke. And I thought to myself, yikes. What part of the game is this? But then I thought to myself, it's okay. It's okay. God knows why you're not working. And God knows why your bank account looks the way it looks. You know what I mean? Now, these people back here giggling, this bailiff looking like she's struggling to not laugh. You know what I mean? This judge, this honorable judge up here in your face calling you broke. It hurts. It stinks. But God knows your financial situation, and he knows why you're in this situation. And I just thought to myself, yo, this has got to be a test of your ability to just stand. Like, I could feel my body getting hot. I could feel like my eyes starting to well with tears. And I'm like, yo, you will not cry in front of these people. Do not cry in front of these people. So I just held it in. And he was like, here's what I'm going to do. He's like, I'm not going to waive it completely. He says, I'm going to charge you $25.50. He's like, and do you know what that's for? I said, no, I do not. He says, that's money that we're going to send for the ambulance. I guess basically he was trying to say, you know, when people get into these accidents based on their irresponsibility, civil servants have to roll up. And perhaps maybe that costs the state money. I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to say, but the $25.50 that I have to pay by the end of this month is for the ambulance. So I say, okay. I said, he says, will you be able to pay it by I said, yes. I said, I will see to it that I pay the $25.50 by the end of the month. He says, okay. So the bailiff motions for me to come around, get some type of paperwork, sign it, and then I get to leave. When I left the courthouse, I just felt really, there were just so many different emotions that were going on. I got to be honest with you. I have been in some really humbling situations over the past 8 years of not working, not having my own place, not having my own money being funny. I have been in some really humbling situations, but this one really took the cake. You know what I mean? Like you have a judge call you broke. I'm like, yo, this is some real stuff. You gotta be sure about this walk with Christ, because there's a lot of stuff that comes with it. You understand what I'm saying? You gotta be prepared to be misunderstood. You have to be prepared to be prejudged and wrongly judged. You have to be prepared for persecution. You have to be prepared for a lot of stuff. But I just thought to myself, you know what? I read this word enough to know that God never used anybody greatly that he didn't test deeply. You understand what I'm saying? There was a lot going on in my mind. There was a lot going on in my heart earlier this afternoon. When I came out of the courtroom, I called my sister. And have you ever been so upset that like you can't even talk? Like I called my sister and I'm like crying so hard that like the words like aren't even coming out. She's like, Dot. She was like, what's going on? What's going on? I was like, hold on a second. I was like, let me call you back. Because basically I needed to get my life together. Like I was just so disgusted. I was so embarrassed. I was so humiliated. I was like, yo, what is this? So I call my sister back. I tell her what's going on in between me, like, and she's like, Dot, relax. You know what I mean? You know exactly what the Lord is doing in your life. Your walk is personal. You don't owe anybody any explanations. And I really hope that you did not internalize anything that he said to you today. His lack of compassion, his lack of empathy, his lack of kindness, that's him. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know your story. Stand 10 toes down. You know, she was very encouraging. That's not to say the tears immediately stopped, because I drove to the beach and I just kept crying because I was pissed. Lord forgive me for that word, but that's how I felt. I was feeling some type of way. Because like, who wants to be called broke at all? But like, who wants to be called broke by a judge in front of a whole bunch of people who found it to be funny? Like, I just found it to be so cruel, and it lacked such compassion. I'm like, yo, like, is this really society? You know what I mean? You're honorable. Why? Because somebody calls you the honorable judge? You know what I mean? Because you wear a robe? Because you went and got a degree? Honor? No, I didn't see any honor today, sir. I didn't see any honor at all. And so the lesson for me is like, these titles, you know what I mean? These positions, these seats. What does that really mean when you don't have the character? You know what I mean? I was also reminded of how far the Lord has brought me. You know, like, the old me would have really run down on that judge. I would have had a lot to say, and I would have probably been fined at the highest level, if not jailed, because that's where I was prior to Christ. Okay, I had a tongue that was quick to curse anybody out. And when I say anybody can get it, I do mean anybody. And that would include a judge. Because I didn't have a reverence. You know what I mean? I didn't have any self-respect, really. I didn't have a respect for other people. I couldn't care less who I was talking to or what I was saying. That's just who I was. I was filled with anger. And my temper was off the chain. And I just sat and I thought, you know, the Lord has done. He has begun a good work in you, you know, and there's proof. There's proof that you can stand in a courtroom in the middle of a situation like that and hold your peace. That's that for me. I mean, you know, only I would know best. For me, that was symbolic of a level of spiritual maturity that I didn't have. Today was just whack. It was whack. It was a tough day. But I'm making this video to let you know that some of us have been called to do things and go places and experience things that other people just won't understand, right? And sometimes the call requires rejection. It requires persecution. It requires lowliness, meekness, you know what I mean? Which is strength harnessed. The meek shall inherit the earth, you know? And in recent months, I've found myself journaling and using that word, looking up that word, really getting the meaning of that word etched in my spirit. It's not about being weak. You know what I mean? I have the ability to dip back into my flesh and turn back into the old Dorothy and say all of the nasty things that could potentially come to mind, right? Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is strength harnessed. The ability to stand there humiliated, 10 toes down, and be quiet, hold your peace. You know, recognize that I don't have to go back and forth with this judge. I don't have to explain anything to this judge. To him, I'm broke, right? To the God I serve, I'm wealthy. I'm quite wealthy. And yeah, like, it was just crazy work today. I'm like, what part of the game was this? I don't know what kind of test. I don't know if this was my final test. Lord Jesus, I pray that it was. Again, I have been in some pretty humiliating situations over the years, very humbling situations over the years regarding finances, but whoo, did this take the cake? Okay, did this take the cake? Be encouraged, church. Okay, The humble never stumble. Remember that. And God resists the proud, but he exalts the humble. And today I had to eat a really nasty slice of humble pie. But to God be all the glory. And I absolutely cancel, denounce, and renounce that word curse of broke. Okay? I am not broke. I am exactly where the Lord wants me to be, and I have everything the Lord wants me to have right now in this season of my life. Like, that judge had some real nerve. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because this walk gets tough sometimes. It really does. If you're really walking with the Lord, there are going to be tests, there are going to be trials, there are going to be situations that you find yourself in that you would have never seen in a million years. Like, if you asked me when I first got saved if I ever thought I was going to be standing in front of a judge copping a plea, asking him to get rid of a ticket because I legit can't afford to pay it, I would have laughed hysterically and told you absolutely not. My money ain't never funny. Whatever kind of ticket you got, I'll pay it. And here we are on May 2nd, 2025. And I'm like, yeah, so I don't have the money. Yo, you can't make this stuff up, man. To God be all the glory. Um, oh, unbelievable.